You ever made a decision that seemed reckless to everyone around you, but deep down, you knew it was right? That's exactly what happened when I quit my job. I was well into my 60s, not yet ready for retirement, and definitely not sitting on a pile of savings. On paper, it looked like a risky move. But sometimes the biggest changes start with a leap of faith. When I told my bosses, they were surprised. But I think they respected my honesty and the way I tried to make my exit as smooth as possible for everyone. Still, I couldn't help but wonder if I'd made a huge mistake. The truth is, I didn't have another job lined up. But I did have something else. A desire to break free from routines that had started to feel empty. And a hope that I could build new ones that actually made me happier. The first thing I noticed was how quickly my financial reality changed. My family's income has been cut in half. Suddenly, every expense mattered. I started tracking every dollar, writing down what came in, what went out, and where I might run into trouble. It was stressful at first, but then something surprising happened. Just seeing the numbers on paper gave me a sense of control. Psychologists call this an internal locus of control, the feeling that even when things are tough, you can still steer your own ship. So I made a game out of cutting back. Restaurants became a rare treat. I stopped buying things just for the thrill of it, especially sports gear, which had always been my weakness. I even started skipping evening tennis games, which cost more because of the lights, and cut out paid lessons. At first, it felt like deprivation, but then something unexpected happened. I actually got better at tennis. To make up for less court time, I started cycling, running, and working out at home. My fitness improved, and that made me a stronger player. It turns out, mixing up your training, what sports scientists call cross-training, can boost your performance in ways you don't expect. Then there was the broom. Before, I'd splurged on a fancy vacuum cleaner. When it broke, I had to go back to basics. Broom, mop, and bucket. At first, I was frustrated, but soon, I realized the broom could reach places the vacuum never did. Months later, after a long and draining battle with customer service, I finally received a replacement device. An even fancier model with LED lights. To this day, I left it in the box. I no longer felt I needed it so much. This is what researchers call feature fatigue. The more complicated a gadget gets, the less satisfying it often becomes. Sometimes simple really is better. My motorcycle, once my pride and joy, became a rare treat instead of a daily ride. It's not practical for short trips, and without a commute, I saved it for special days of real joy. Instead, I started using my bicycle to run errands and get some exercise. It was a small change, but it made my days feel lighter and more purposeful. Food was another big shift. I used to see cooking as a chore, something to get through after a long day. But when eating out became a luxury, I started experimenting in the kitchen. I discovered the joy of making colorful breakfasts, hearty soups, and dishes I actually looked forward to. Cooking became a kind of meditation, a way to lose myself in the moment and enjoy the process, not just the result. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls this flow, that feeling when you're so absorbed in what you're doing, time just disappears. And then there was time itself. For a long time, my schedule was my own. No more rushing to meetings or watching the clock. I could take a walk after lunch, read a book in the afternoon, or call a friend just because I felt like it. Researchers call this time affluence. The sense of having enough time, which studies show is even more important for happiness than money once your basic needs are met. Socially, things changed too. Some friendships faded, especially those built around work. But that's normal. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar found that our cognitive capacity limits genuinely intimate friendships to about 5 people. Mine is smaller. Although closed in what I could call productive isolation, I may yet experiment with new ways of establishing relationships. I find skill sharing particularly interesting. I teach you guitar, you teach me Swedish. Looking back, I realized that what started as a period of forced cutbacks became a time of discovery. Psychologists call this post-traumatic growth. Not just bouncing back from a setback, but actually growing because of it. When you have less, you get creative. You find new strengths and new joys you never expected. Of course, none of this would have been possible without a basic safety net. I had enough to cover the essentials, and that made all the difference. But the real lesson was this. Sometimes, the small changes, using a broom instead of a vacuum, cooking at home, riding a bike, can transform your life in ways you never imagined. Have you ever experienced a small change that made a big difference to your life? Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear about it. And if you want more tips and insights, check out the MyFriendlyBudget channel. You might also like our video on post-traumatic growth after income loss. MyFriendlyBudget.com. Start building a brighter future.